Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to another video. It's a new year, 2025, and that means a new settings video. I'm going to be talking about my settings in-game, what I use for RSCS, for pro level tournaments and things like that, and talking about what most pros use and what you should be using, or some of the ranges, giving some tips for you to figure out your own settings personally, because it is a very personal thing. Like I said, I do one of these every single year, so I'm going to be talking about some of the changes I've made in the last year to my settings. Let's get straight into it. Now in the background, I will just be in free play whilst I talk about some of these settings. Now, the first tab in the settings feature is the training tab. Now, there's only a couple of things to speak about here. Number one is game speed. This lowers the game speed, down to 60%, for example, to lower it and basically to practice mechanics, to make yourself feel good. A lot of players use this, and I massively recommend it to practice and warm up in. And then when you speed the ball back up, or you speed the play back up, sorry, you will feel quicker, more fluid. Now, a lot of players complain that they don't like it. They, feel too fast when coming out of it. I will say that I genuinely believe this is useful for everyone. I think that people complain very quickly without giving it a fair shot. There are going to be some people out there who absolutely give it a fair shot and still don't like it. But I definitely recommend giving it a go, okay? I learned to use this for the first time back in Champ 1. And a lot of pros, I'd say just under maybe it's about even between pros who use this and not. But it's extremely useful. A ton of players, find it helpful with feeling good in the game and things like that. So make sure you're practicing it. Give it a fair shot. You can use it to practice mechanics as well. I massively recommend that if you slow the game speed down and you need to learn certain mechanics. It can be really useful. However, if you're doing that for the first time with lowering the game speed, you might not be used to that lower speed and you might just mess up the mechanics straight away. So at least get used to the actual game speed first before you use it to learn new mechanics. Really quickly, by the way, if you're on PC, use BakkesMod. Use the BakkesMod feature, because for some reason, the in-game feature, if you reset the play, it just resets the speed, even if it's still on 60, as you see in the settings. So a little bit strange there. The BakkesMod feature doesn't do that. If you're on console, you'll just have to put up with that, unfortunately. Now, the only other thing I'll speak about is disable goal reset. I recommend just having this on. Just makes it makes everything more fluid. If you score a goal and you want to, you don't want it to break up the play, have to reset it because the ball explodes in the goal and then go again. It just makes things more fluid. However, if you are learning something new, you might want to tick it off. Let's say you're, practicing ceiling shots for the first time, and you either do, a really good one that's just not a ceiling shot, but it's a shot. If you do something really good or bad, you might want to see what you did correctly or incorrectly with this replay, okay? So making sure you have that turned on for things like that. Nothing crazy, won't make a massive difference. And everything else in this settings, you can use unlimited boost, standard boost, whatever you want. I know I will get some questions if I don't talk about this. Standard boost, if you're practicing, your boost pad pathing, you're not used to understanding where the boost pads are without having ball cam off, and you need to practice this in the free play, this can be useful, okay? I did this and I got used to it because of this, so I definitely recommend it for that. And some people prefer, having standard boost on instead of, unlimited boost, just messing around in free play. They think it's, most similar to a game and stuff like that. So if you're one of those people, absolutely, there's nothing wrong with it. I do recommend having unlimited boost, just lets you practice more mechanics. But there are some extremely mechanical pros that I've seen use standard boost in free play. So, okay, gameplay, all really simple. I've got all this on high. Don't ask me what it does. It's something to do with your bandwidth and your internet, like you see here, I guess. I just stick it on high. If you can, then do the same. Input buffer. Now, this is the main thing I'll speak about on this screen. The only thing I'll speak about on the screen. Input buffer. If you are lagging, I don't know why it helps, but just change it, okay? Change it to CSTS, STS, or default. Just change it to whichever one you don't have on, or one of the two that you don't have on. When I used to live at home and had bad internet, I would lag a lot, and I would change it usually to CSTS, and it would stabilize it a ton. It felt a little bit heavier when I used this one, but it massively helped my connection in the game. Don't ask me why it does it. I don't know the reason. but it definitely helps. Now, the only thing I'll speak about on this, by the way, is cross-platform play. If you're on PS4, if you're on Xbox, don't limit yourself to playing console players. PC players are better, especially at higher ranks, at least. If you're at a high rank, turn it on, turn cross-platform on. Don't just play against. I remember so many PS4, Xbox players at high rank just kept this off, and they only played worse opponents on their console and basically could get high rank because of that. It's just a bad mindset. If you're truly trying to practice, just take it on, okay? First up on camera settings, we've got custom presets. Now, I don't know if this is a Rocket League specific thing or if this is a BakkesMod thing built into the game. I'm not sure. I think it's Rocket League, but anyway, you've got old players camera settings here. Really old players actually here. So if you want to use them, go for it. You know, they are outdated, but camera settings don't really change. You're gonna get away with it. Really, it's gonna be completely fine. FOV, I would stick this between 105 and 110. 105 an absolute push. I don't think I've seen anyone use this in years or ever, honestly. But 108, 19, 110. I've seen people use all those three numbers. Okay, 110, 90% of players use. If you want to be quick and easy with it, stick it at 110. You won't go wrong with it. And as you can see at the bottom, that controls the size of your field of vision. So if you put it lower, you're going to see less of the field. So it makes sense to want to have it as high as possible, okay? Distance. Now, that controls how far your camera is behind your car. I would stick this between 240 and 270. I don't think I've ever seen anyone go below 240. And I honestly don't think I've seen anyone go above 270. So if you like quite far out camera settings like me, I would use 270. And if you prefer closer camera settings towards your car, I would use 240, okay, 250, one of those two numbers. Now, I will recommend this, you know, have a mess around with this because some players genuinely play better on a lower distance because it can help with striking the ball a little bit better. Because the ball seems bigger, basically. Okay, so some players will like it and basically think it makes them hit the ball better, and not think it can. Okay, simple as that. I personally not a massive fan with it. I have used it in the past for brief kind of periods of time. I have used it in the past year actually, closest camera settings, and given that a shot. Not a massive fan of it. I always go to more zoomed out ones like this, where I can see everything a little bit clearer. And everything's a bit more balanced, I think, with further camera settings out. And these aren't massively far out because my angle, my height, they're not crazy, okay? And we'll speak about that next. Now, height. I would put this between 90 at an absolute minimum, 110 maximum. If you want to go above that, slightly go for it. But I would stick between those two numbers. Now, you use your height and angle in your settings with one another, okay? So if you have low height, some people like to then raise the angle, up to 5, okay, or -5, I guess, lower the angle up to down to -5. But so you mess around with that. I would personally always recommend 110 -3, but around between -5 and -3 for angle, 90 and 110 for height. You're not going to go wrong. Stiffness. Now, this is a very, very important one. I would argue we get to kind of the most important one. I think stiffness genuinely is the most important one. Tons of people have massively differing opinions on this one. Now, with high stiffness, you'll see that these are my camera settings, okay, as I'm not moving at all. When I pick up speed and gain supersonic, my camera settings don't move whatsoever, okay? They stay the absolute same, okay? Now, some people like that. I don't think I've seen anyone use one stiffness in a long time in the pro scene, but maybe there are a few players that do. Not that I'm aware of. Most people stick it between, where is it? There it is, 0.35 usually, and 0.65, 0.7 at a push. And if you, likewise, if you go to the opposite end, if you're going fast, your camera gets very zoomed out, okay? Now, I don't recommend either of the extremes, okay? I think you need a good balance with this. I have it at exactly in the middle, 0.5. I used to use, I think, 0.35, 0.4 I've used all of it between 0.35 and 0.6, maybe even 0.65. Right now I've got it up to 0.5 and I actually raised it up to that a few weeks ago. I had it at 0.45 for a decent amount of time. I like 0.5. I like one of those kind of few figures that I just gave. I do recommend having it around this middle kind of margin, because if you use a really high stiffness, let's say 0.85, not the absolute max but still very high, if you're moving at a quick speed, you almost don't know what speed you're moving at, because your camera setting isn't getting any further out or closer in. It's not moving, which it makes it very difficult to differentiate the speeds you're moving at in the game. Okay, that's what stiffness does. All right. So I would always recommend being able to see it a little bit. With 0.5, I can see my camera zooming out and zooming back in when I pick up speed or lower my speed. Okay, it's doing both of those things, which gives this a very nice understanding of the speed you're always moving at, basically. It feels a lot better. Okay, so use one of those few figures between 0.35 and 0.65, really, like I spoke about. Swivel speed. Okay, the higher you can go with this, with still having control over the way where you're seeing with your right stick. That's what this does. Swivel speed lets you dictate how fast your camera turns when you use your right stick. The higher you can go with having control, the better. Okay, simple as that, because you're gonna have more information more quickly. Okay, so I would always think that players can't go too high. Some players, a lot of players go crazy with this and have it up here. I personally would hate that. Okay, I just wouldn't be able to see it and register it as quickly. I've never used that high. I would always recommend between 1.5 and 2.5 ish. Okay, if you want lower, having that's a good range, and if you want a bit higher, having 2.5. Everyone watching this video will be able to control both of those things. Okay, 2.5 is really pushing it, honestly. So I personally would hate to use any higher than that. I use 220. I like it. I did raise it slightly. I think I used 1.8 for a while, and I figured I might as well raise it slightly if I can control it, and I can. So yeah, transition speed. Now, I'm one of the few players that use a very high transition speed. This controls the speed of transitions between car and ball cam modes, as you can see at the bottom there. So if you use a really low transition speed, and I click ball cam off, then you can see that the camera pans over to the other side that the camera is going to. Okay, if I use a very high transition speed, like I do, okay, I use 1.8. If I use 2, it's instant. Okay, which I don't like. That's too much. I like it at 1.8. It makes me feel quick. It makes me have an understanding of where everything is when I need to, and it doesn't make it so it's like there's no kind of in between at all, like there is with 2 transition speeds. That's horrible. Would never recommend that. Now, this is very high. I wouldn't recommend most of you to use it. You can practice it if you want to have a feel for it. Most of you will be better off using between 1 and 140. Okay, somewhere around there, not exactly, but most of you will benefit from a lower transition speed is what I'm trying to say, because you need that just kind of bit more time, I think, between understanding where the ball is and where your camera is going to go to next. Okay, a lot of lower ranked players won't be able to use a higher transition speed and will just get lost in between both of those kind of points, basically. So don't use it. Now, this is one that is just non-negotiable. Use the lowest demo transition time. There's absolutely no reason to ever use a higher one. If you can give me a good reason in the comments, then go for it. Fair play. You won't be able to. Okay. This changes the amount of time between after you get demoed to the camera panning to the spot you're going to spawn in. Okay, so if you use a really high transition time, you're going to get demoed. It's going to wait a couple of seconds, and then it's going to show where you're spawning and give you less time to react to the side you're spawning on, basically, which I don't understand why you would ever want that, because the only argument is so you can see what's happening around the spot where you got demoed. But when you spawn back, you're going to have a vision of the entire field. Okay, so you're going to be able to see it anyway. Not as closely, but you'll still be able to see it. There's no argument for it. Use 0.00. Use that transition time. Simple as that. Invert swivel. This just changes the camera control on the right stick. So if you have it turned on and you push your right stick up, you're going to look down. And if you have it turned, where is it? If you have it turned off, if you push your right stick up, you're going to look up, which I don't know why I have it turned on. I don't think it's the default setting. I think I must have just turned it on one day and gotten used to it years ago and never looked back. That doesn't matter which one you have it on, whatever you want to use basically, but it only affects, you know, 2 inputs, looking up and looking down. Not a massive thing. Here we go. Controls. Now I've got arrow left. I'll just go through my controls really quickly. Jump on X, boost on R1. Now I do recommend a ton of people to use boost on R1. I'm very biased. I think these are the best camera settings for 99% of people because it's so fluid. It allows you to touch everything super easily. Now, I went pro with circle boost. I was a pro player with circle boost. I was a pro and switched my settings right before a tournament and had to get used to it within I remember like a week, which I probably shouldn't have done in hindsight, but it paid off, so it's fine. I had to get used to whole different settings, R1 boost, which was really difficult to get used to, but I just grinded and got used to it. The reason I did it was because this was 5 years ago now, back in 2020. I really struggled. You know, pros were way worse than we are nowadays, but I really struggled with just getting up straight in the air to read, for example, backboard reads, you know, straight up like that. Okay. With circle boost, for some reason, I felt like I would air roll or something, or I just wouldn't be able to press it right at the same time with my, you know, jump on X. Okay. Don't know why. I switched it to R1. Instantly fixed the issue, okay, because it freed up both of my fingers to use those two of those buttons, the jump button and the boost button, you know, without it being the same thumb, basically, which was what I was using before. That felt more comfortable, okay. So I really recommend trying R1 boost. I think it's great. The rest of my controls, L1 power slide, L1 arrow, always have these two on the same thing because they you can't use them both at the same time. Okay, so have them on the same button. Usually L1 is the one people go to most without it being default on square, and all come on triangle, arrow right on circle, arrow left on square. So I just fat finger basically those 4 buttons: ball, cam, arrow right, arrow left, and jump. And I really like that. That's what I've got. Those are the main ones, and yeah, there's nothing too different. If you want circle boost, you usually have your arrow left and arrow right on L1 and R1. Most people use. Some people will use an arrow left on the square, for example, and an arrow right on R1. A lot of players use that, and then normal arrow on L1. But I really do recommend having your normal arrow bound. A lot of players, or some players, especially new to the game, only have arrow left and right. There's going to be nothing wrong with it, really. I just do think there is value in having that normal arrow for certain mechanics, certain small control movements that you'll want or maybe benefit from. So you don't need all 3. You can usually just have 2. But if you have 2, I would personally prefer having one of these 2 and then that normal arrow on top. Okay. Now, steering sensitivity, aerial sensitivity. I have these at 1.4 and 1.64, which is very strange, very different to most pro players or all pro players, and very exact, which I'll speak about in a second. Now, steering sensitivity and aerial sensitivity, all this does is it changes how much you have to push your left stick to turn your car, okay? Whether it's on the ground with steering or whether it's in the air with your aerial sensitivity. So if I've got it at 10 and I push my left stick slightly, as you see here, as you see on my controller over there at the bottom, I'm not even, you know, you can barely see that I'm turning that, and it's turning my car, okay? And that's actually interesting, by the way, because you can really see the difference. With it on the ground, it's massive, and then I jump, and it's very slight. So that's the difference between steering and aerial sensitivity. Never have it at 10, by the way. The max I've seen players go to, you know, Monkey Moon, for example, you know, arguably the greatest player of all time, uses really high steering sensitivity in aerial at like 4 something. I think Tox uses like 6, another pro player. So some crazy stuff going on there, but clearly works for them. Oh God, I'm changing everything now. I would personally have it between, you know, 1.1, 1.2 usually. I definitely recommend, you know, raising it from 1 at least. Between 1, 2, and 2. You know, I wouldn't go crazy from there. You can mess around with it a little bit, going up a bit higher. I personally wouldn't recommend going up to like 4. Not that it can't work. You know, anything that I recommend, you can make other things work. Absolutely. Other players have shown that. I think just for the majority of people, it won't serve you well, basically. Okay, so 1.4 is what I have and 1.64 for aerial. Now, why do I have it different? 99% of players will use and correctly use the same. You know, that is probably what you should do. I just saw a tweet one time from a former pro player, Billy, who's now a coach, just say, I think it was him anyway, that just said like you should have your, you know, aerial sensitivity 0.2 higher than your steering. I think even like I just tried it and then just stuck with it, probably forgot to turn it off and stuck with it ever since. And then I just raised it slightly to 1.64. I didn't like an even number at the time. I just wanted, you know, why don't I just have a random number, not a whole, you know, nice round number like that. Just put it up to 1.64. I just never changed it and got used to it. Okay. There's no real story behind it. No real reason why I have it at that would be better than having it at 1.4. It would probably be better at having it at 1.4. I just got used to this. Controller dead zone, 0.05. I'd have this between 0.05 and 0.1. I wouldn't go any higher than that, and I wouldn't go any lower than 0.05. I find that if you go lower than 0.05, your general kind of stick drift on your controller that every controller will slightly have eventually just becomes a massively detrimental thing from below 0.05, basically. I feel like you start to notice it way quicker and way more. 0.1, a lot of players use that. I've never had issues controlling 0.05. So the lower you can go, the better, really. Which I guess you could say for the steering sensitivity and stuff like that. So similar mindset you could have there, I guess. But I like 0.05. Go to that or 0.1. One of those two or in between. It's going to be completely fine. That obviously, again, controls. It's the same as steering sensitivity, just with everything in the game. With your ground game and so your steering and your aerial. It's just combining these two things, basically. Now, dodge dead zone. This affects how much of the stick you have to press in to do a dodge, to do a flip, okay? So if you have it very, very high, as you can see on my controller overlay, if I press my stick up slightly and then use my dodge or use my jump button, it's not going to actually flip me forward, okay? It's just going to do a jump, okay? On the inverse here, if I lower this massively to 0, let's do. Oh God, I'm changing everything again. To 0.1, that's the lowest. If I raise it slightly, that's not enough. I'm going to flip. There you go. So similar amounts, it just changes the amount you need to push it in or push it up to flip. Okay. So I would recommend having it between 0.4 and 0.6. Nice numbers. Okay. You can go slightly higher. I was using 0.7 for a long time recently. I've actually lowered it massively like 2 days ago to 0.37. Again, no reason why. I used 0.4 and then just lowered it slightly to 0.37. I like the feel of it, gotten used to it, and it feels good. Okay, I've lowered it because I just want to get a little bit quicker, and I wanted to lower it and see how it felt. It feels good, so I'm going to stick with it. So yeah, that's why I use it. Control vibration. No reason to have that on. Full camera mode, toggle, hold this if you want to hold. Don't know why you'd ever want to. Some old players used to use this. I actually just can't. I just literally can't use that. That's horrible. Never use that unless you really want to. Go for it. And mouse sensitivity, that's if you're on keyboard mouse. Interface. The only one that really matters here for actual gameplay is nameplate scale. You could raise it if you want to see nameplates a little bit better, which a lot of players do like. So give that a go if you're struggling to see players behind the ball, for example, or you're getting surprised by players when they're in a different spot than you expected. Raise the nameplate scale. It can definitely help. I think this is just the default 150. I just have it at 150. Never had a massive issue with it. And then all these settings are really personal, except I would recommend having ball arrow. As you can see at the bottom, that enables an on-screen arrow above your car that always points to the ball, okay? So if you have this turned off, you're going to see that there's no arrow near my car, okay, to point me to where the ball is when I have ball cam off. And if I turn that on, you'll see an arrow now pops up. You know, it's pointing to the right on the right side of my car there. Okay, that's showing me where the ball is. If I have ball cam on, it's not going to be there. So this is just useful for lower players. You're never going to use this basically once you get to higher level. I don't think I've looked at it in years. I've just gotten used to it being there, and basically my eyes, I guess, have zoned it out, and now I can see it massively on my screen now that I've pointed out. So that's great. But yeah, just keep it on if you want to use it. If it's really, you know, bugging you, then turn it off. Never had an issue with it personally. Ball cam indicator, I'd always recommend having this on. This just shows you in the bottom left if you've got ball cam on or off. You will know anyway. But yeah, just keep it on. Not going to change anything crazy. Now, that's, I think, all for these settings. Yep, there's nothing else going on here. I would always have, I think, where is it? Connection quality off. You know, if you're lagging, do I want to know I'm lagging anyway? I feel like it would make me feel like I'm lagging more if I see it. Video settings. All these are standard stuff. Full screen, resolution, normal. Okay, VSync. Massively important. If you have this ticked on, tick it off, please. To the console players out there, you will go up in MR within 2 weeks. Okay, tick it off. A lot of you will like every sentence video I do will comment, oh, my game feels awful, it looks awful when I turn it off, this is unplayable. That's completely normal. Your eyes genuinely get used to it. I said, the person that told me for the first time, I called them crazy when they told me it, or I thought they were crazy. You'll think I'm crazy until you actually get used to it. You won't notice that after a while. It reduces input lag, okay? So just turn it off, it's massive. When I turned this off, I went from 1600 MR to 1800 within like 3 weeks. I'm not kidding. I remember it was September of 2018, I'm pretty sure. Or around those summer months, and it was crazy, okay? And I told this to, a few of the players that are now pros at the time, and they were like the same rank as me back then. We all improved in MR massively. So turn that off. That's the biggest thing you'll get from this video if you have it on. Okay, all these settings, high quality, off, custom, and whatever FPS you can handle. On this side, again, if you can handle it, use high performance. Okay, some players like using high quality, I think, on this one here. I think First Killer uses this. Sometimes Chronic does. I remember them talking about it a lot when, I was teamed with them. It does, I think, give you slightly higher input lag if you use this, but some people like the look of it. It's not a massive deal. If you had them all on high quality, then I'm sure it can it can feel a little bit worse. Yeah, that definitely feels a little bit kind of heavier, I guess, on my car with everything turned on here. I also don't like the look of it. I'm used to it on performance. In my opinion, the game looks at its best with performance settings anyway. Low intensity effect, and all these ticked off. You don't have to have any of them on. I wouldn't recommend having them on at all. Okay. Some people prefer having, I can't remember which one it is, but some people like having one of these on. Maybe lens flares is it? Some people like for the alpha boost, or for certain boosts to look nicer. I hate it. I would recommend having everything off. Keep your game very simple, very smooth, and feeling good. Now, those are all the in-game settings. The last few, audio, you can take a screenshot if you really want to look at that. And your chat and settings, here it is, screenshot that. Quick chats, there you go. Nothing too crazy. The only thing I'll say, don't have your compliments on your team only settings, because when I get nice shotted, or the worst one is when I get, someone saying sorry to me in the team setting, but they have everything else like, other settings on public, and then I have to quick chat to my opponents because they don't see my teammates team only quick chat, and it looks like I'm being toxic. I'll hate you forever. So never use that for me, please. Thank you. Now, those are my settings, boys. That's really all I have for this video. A lot of people, when I, get asked or do videos like this, they ask for my presets. I don't have anything going on here, okay? I have some presets, which they're not even presets. I just add a new car and make it when I want it. The only other ones I have are some randomized ones. Dryly Worlds, which you won't even be able to see because I've got BakkesMod on right now. I think it's this one here. There you go. Something similar. I don't think it's the same colors. But yeah, I've not got any presets for you guys to see. I'm a boring guy. Okay, I use a couple octanes, a couple fenix, and change the decal when I want it. Right now, I'm using this one. There you go. Guys, if you did find this settings video useful at all, please let me know in the comments. Always appreciate your support on these types of videos. I'll see you guys in the next one. Also, if you think I got anything wrong and you want to give advice to each other that, you know, think I'm wrong on, go for it. I'd be absolutely keen, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys think about your own settings and what you found in game, because everyone's got their own personal experience with settings and what is useful to them. Don't always just listen to pros on their advice for settings. You know, we do know about the game, but you know, sometimes you'll get more valuable information about things from you know, like-minded people. So absolutely go for that. Have a discussion in the comments. I'll read them. Guys, take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.